Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve? Good, good. We had Christmas Day after that, the normal progression of things, and I hope you had a great Christmas Day with folks that you love and folks who love you, and I hope those are the same people that you get to be around, and I hope that you both gave and received the gifts that you wanted, and most importantly, I hope that you received the gift that God sent to you and to me and to all of us on the very first Christmas. Luke chapter 2 says this, "But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid, for look, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today a Savior, who is Messiah the Lord, was born for you in the city of David.'" That's the gift of Christmas, and I hope that you received that gift and that you celebrated it. But then Christmas ends. The clock strikes midnight, and we say goodbye to Christmas 2018. Then you crawl into bed or fall into bed, and perhaps you feel a little stuffed because you've now eaten the sugar plums that were once dancing in your head. They're now dancing in your tummy or other places in your digestive system. And the next thing you know, you wake up on the day after. What did you do on the day after? How many of you slept in a little bit longer on the day after? Did you do that? Some people did that. Okay, that makes sense. For how many of you, today is the first time you've gotten up early since Christmas? Okay, there'll be some folks. Very, very good. That makes sense. On the day after, some people, they just want it to be over. They're just glad it's over. They take down their Christmas decorations. Did any of you take down your Christmas decorations already? Oh, a bunch of Grinches. Did you rob the Salvation Army kettle too? Did you do that? Wow. Well, that's all right. I understand. I saw my neighbor taking down his decorations. Have you got that picture, Sherry, of my neighbor taking down his? I think it serves him right, actually. I didn't even go help him. Who at least gave this a try? Show the next one. Show the next slide, Sherry. Let's see. Alexa, take down the Christmas decorations. Did you try that? Did that work for you? Let us know if you did that. You notice we didn't take down anything here at First Beat because we were just too tired is really what it was. My good friend from college, Roy West, takes down all his Christmas decorations every year on December 26th, and he chronicles it on social media. So he put out this post, December 26th this year, from his Facebook page. Here's what he said. He said, now you just understand, he's very cynical about Christmas. He says, "All righty, Christmas vomit down. Outside was easy. Unplugged the projector light, plucked the wreaths from the windows and doors, put them in their cases, and threw them in the barn. 5 minutes. Inside, positioned all the decoration boxes in order, formed a relay with Mrs. West, Roy Jr., and his girl. Total time, 11 minutes to get the tree and all inside vomit packed and stored. 16 minutes total, a new record. There was celebration in the West house. Time to get on with spring now. The garden will be turned soon. The lawnmower will be serviced. Rods and reels will be oiled. Got to get a couple of new outdoor furniture pieces. Home Depot will have their spring plants out by tomorrow. 8 short weeks until the pitchers and catchers report for spring training." He's a real Scrooge. But how many of us weren't nearly that motivated to do anything on the day after? Because it's kind of a big letdown day, and maybe it is to you as well. We're calling it the Christmas hangover. The Christmas hangover. So some of you are asking, "Hey, where's the band this morning?" Hungover. Where else? Christmas hangover. Now, I love Christmas. It's my favorite time of the year. I anticipate it all year. I enjoy it when it gets here. But when the day after comes, the house is quiet. The floor is covered with crumpled paper and boxes. The tree is still up, but it doesn't seem to sparkle quite as much, probably because I haven't watered it in about a week now. But I love Christmas. The day after, though, I wonder every year, did I really enjoy the true spirit of Christmas? And if I did, can I keep it beyond the season or beyond this one day? Or do I lose it to the cynicism of something like, well, we'll do it all again next year? But like all hangovers, the Christmas hangover ends too. For some, I suppose it can last all winter, but for many of us, it gets swept away by all the New Year's hoopla. And some of the New Year's hangovers too, I suppose, where we start thinking about, how we're going to do better in 2019, how we're going to live better, and we're going to lose weight, and how you're going to crush all your goals and whatever other self-help things you're going to do in 2019, so that 2019 will be the most amazing year ever. Kind of the same thing you said about 2018, wasn't it? Have you heard that saying, rinse and repeat, something like that? But before we do that, we're going to embrace the Christmas hangover just a little bit longer, and hopefully, like with any other hangover, learn something from the sadness as well as from the joy. So before we move on, before you move on, we're going to take a little time this morning to reflect. We're going to take a little time to reflect. Mary did that in the Bible. Mary, the mother of Jesus, she did exactly that. Luke chapter 2, verse 19. She exactly did that. It says this, but Mary was treasuring up all these things in her heart and meditating on them. Mary thought about all these things, or as we would say, she reflected about everything that happened that first Christmas. And a lot happened to her. What a journey this had been, and it was a long way from over. Now, you think you had an eventful Christmas, whatever happened to you. Think of Mary's Christmas that first year. Think of what she had just been through. Angels, miraculous pregnancy, engagement, marriage, almost divorce, a 75-mile walk to Bethlehem. And by the way, when you think through this, sometimes you miss these parts. Mary really didn't have to go to Bethlehem if she didn't want to. Joseph had to go for the census. Mary would not have had to have gone. I think she probably went because it would have been very uncomfortable to stay home. A lot of rumors, a lot of talk. She was pregnant. Everybody knew there was kind of a scandal brewing here. So she walked to Bethlehem, gave birth in a stable, no doctors, no nurses, no birthing coaches. All she had was Joseph there. And all the ladies are thinking, it's a wonder the Savior even got into the world at all, given that. That's your Christmas miracle. So Joseph saying all that, there, she's giving birth to the baby. He's saying all the birth coaching stuff like push and breathe, and you're doing a great job, babe. You know he said that line, didn't he? You're doing a great job, babe, because he was hip too. We know that. So what do you think Mary said back to Joseph? Don't say it out loud, because we don't talk like that here at First Baptist Church. Visiting shepherds, and then between being exhausted and having a crying baby, maybe she could get a little sleep. But the day after, she remembered that first Christmas, and she began to reflect on what all those things meant. She didn't just move on, think about next year. The writer, young adult writer, novelist Yvonne Woon was right when she said this: sometimes you have to look back in order to understand the things that lie ahead. Mary meditated upon all that had happened and all that God had done that first Christmas. And if nothing else, the Christmas hangover gives you the time to do that as well. But not everybody's ready to do that. Not everybody is ready to do that. Some want to just quickly forget Christmas. Now, maybe this would include you too, and sometimes, and we can understand that. Sometimes people want to forget Christmas because it's a painful time. And it brings up some painful reminders of loss or loneliness. And every year you just hope it passes quickly. And we can understand that. We understand that pain. And let me tell you something, Jesus does as well. Others want Christmas to simply blend in with other holidays that we celebrate in December. We've got a chart of that. There are actually a bunch of other holidays that fall on Christmas time. And this is why we have this sort of thing that goes on every year. I think this year a little less than other years where there's some conversation about whether one says Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. Christmas meaning the Christmas holiday, and then Happy Holidays, there's all these other holidays. So sometimes there's some conversation about that, and sometimes it gets contentious. I still think columnist Dave Barry probably had the best take on this. He wrote this several years ago when his kids were young. He said that in order to avoid offending anyone, many schools quit celebrating Christmas and start talking about the weather during the holidays. He said at his son's schools, they have a winter program instead of a Christmas program, and they sing these great songs like Winter Wonderland, Frosty the Snowman, and Susie Snowflake. And he says, that's even funnier because we live in Miami. Here's a picture of their snowman. Show their snowman there. It's so beautiful. There's a couple of shots of him. All right? You would think the kids belong to the Church of Meteorology if you sang there. So some folks just want to blend in with other holidays, and maybe we could just celebrate the holiday of December somehow. And then other times we just want to forget about it at all. So that's the way some folks have it. Others just want to remember their own meaning of Christmas. Their own meaning of Christmas. Now, the Christmas movies do a good job about this. If you're like us, you kind of watch the Christmas movies over the season, and you see some of the same ones year after year at Christmas, and saw this survey of people's favorite Christmas movies of all time. And the top 3 might surprise you. I did when I got here this morning. I asked one of our guys what his top Christmas movies were, and he said Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, and some Hallmark movie probably are the top 3. No, not quite. Number 3 is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That's my favorite. Show that. And then my favorite character in this movie, maybe this is yours too, Cousin Eddie. I got a picture of Cousin Eddie there. Show Cousin Eddie. It's a great shot of him. That's when he was a kid. So that's number 3. Number 2, you may not be surprised, It's a Wonderful Life. And what do you think's number 1? What do you think? Well, yeah, here's some. White Christmas? No. Okay. Holiday Inn? No. All right, show it. A Christmas Story is number 1, they said. Yeah. And then there's a great gift, the perfect gift for you guys who like Christmas Story and Star Wars. We got a picture of that. Show the gift. That's a great gift. You'll want to pick up one of those See, when you return that ugly sweater, you can pick up one of those. That'll be great. That'll be great for you. Now, people say, what about the other movies? What about Elf? Elf's a good movie. What about Home Alone? That's a great movie, isn't it? Home Alone? Home Alone 1, not 3, 4, or 12, where Kevin is home alone because he's 34 and living in the basement. That's a different show that'll be out there. And then there's all the 123 Hallmark movies that are out there. And do you know, show the next slide, these guys are in every single one of them. They're in all 123 of them. They play different characters, but they're in all of them. And what all these movies have in common is they portray to us a real meaning of Christmas. A real meaning of Christmas. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, one of my favorites, brings out the fact that, all the Who's and Whovilles, they love getting gifts, and the Grinch steals all their gifts, and then they discover that Christmas is really not about gifts. It's not about gifts. It's about family, and it's about togetherness. So that's what they say is the real meaning of Christmas. Not about gifts, about family, and about togetherness. And that sounds good to us, but you would not have believed that if you were Mary and Joseph that first year, that first Christmas, and you go back to your ancestral hometown to Bethlehem, and you can't find family or friends to give you a room to stay in. Now, I love the story about there's no room at the inn, but everything we know about that passage tells us that they probably were not at, Comfort Suites, Bethlehem. There's actually a completely different language, completely different words there for what would be a commercial place, as in the story of the Good Samaritan. They were probably looking for a guest room in someone's house, kind of like Airbnb, except for with your family, with people that somehow you should have a connection with, and everyone that they knew, everyone they were related to said, we don't have room for you here. So that first Christmas, they would not have felt too much about family and togetherness. But the movie has a great message. Christmas isn't about who gives or gets the most gifts. Family and togetherness is important. And we all love the Christmas anti-commercialism messages year after year, don't we? In fact, I've never met anyone who doesn't love that message, Christmas anti-commercialism. But aren't we exactly the same people who set records this year for retail sales in all the stuff that we buy? Who in here right now is ordering something for next Christmas? You're on the phone right now, ordering a gift, waiting for that. We're the ones who do all those same things. At least we should be able to see the irony. So it's a pretty good message. Anti-commercial, it's not about gifts, about togetherness. But that's not the whole story. Christmas Vacation, my favorite Christmas movie. We watch this every year. At the end of the movie, the main character, Clark Griswold, reflects on the meaning of Christmas after seeing the Christmas star. He says this, it means something different to everyone, but now I've discovered what it means to me. What it means to me. Well, it is a good time to reflect on what Christmas means to you, but Make sure you get back to the basic and true meaning of Christmas and then ask yourself if that means anything to you. Christmas means a lot of good things to a lot of good people. Even our friends who would sort of identify themselves as atheists can find meaning in Christmas. They've got a sign out there. There's all kinds of different good meanings that one can find in Christmas. If you were here on Christmas Eve, I read to you a blog post by a guy who said that the issue of why he was identifies himself as an agnostic. He doesn't know if there's a God or not, doesn't particularly believe in that. But he said the issue as to why to celebrate Christmas was cleared up for him by an agnostic Unitarian minister in a Sunday sermon. And he simply said, it's perfectly fine to celebrate Christmas, and you ought to celebrate Christmas if for no other reason, just because Christmas is fun, and that's enough. That's enough. And unless you're a total Scrooge, everybody can find a good meaning in Christmas. But I don't want to simply find and reflect on a good meaning. There are a lot of good possible meanings that you can apply to Christmas. I want to know if there's a real and true meaning. I want to know if there's one with eternal significance. I want to know if there's one with life-changing significance for me and for others. I want to know if there's one that matters beyond what I might believe or not believe. We usually read the Christmas story before we open our presents to remind us of the true gift of Christmas. I remember our very own Carol Abbott asked me one year if we'd ever thought about singing Happy Birthday to Jesus as a part of our Christmas services, because that's the celebration of Christ's birth. And that does make some sense. You do that with everyone on their birthday. In our extended family, we've got a tradition. If it's someone's birthday in our extended family, Rebecca and Sam and I, and sometimes Oreo the dog, we'll call them, and as soon as they pick up the phone, we'll start singing happy birthday to them. It's kind of a gift. Those who receive it refer to it as a crime against humanity, actually. But happy birthday, Jesus, would be appropriate because it is the time of celebrating the birth of the Son of God, the Savior of the world. And that is the real and true meaning of Christmas. Mary said this, Luke chapter 1, verse 46. Mary said, "My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord, and my spirit has rejoiced in God my Savior." That's the true meaning. And if you know, it's not enough to just really think about that on Christmas Day, even if you do that every single year. But today is the day to reflect on that and think about not only what it means to the world, but what it's meant to you. And as you slowly get over your Christmas hangover and look to a new year, hopefully a short winter and an early spring, ask yourself this: do you treasure this meaning and significance in your heart? Do you meditate upon it? And have you done that before you move on to what's next? Have we stopped long enough to reflect on this message for it to settle and spread deep within us so that as we go on to what's next, we take it with us? As we get going and as we return to our everyday life, do we take this message with us? Matthew chapter 2, verse 12, and then Luke chapter 2, verse 20. Let's read these out loud together. Can we do that? Read this with me, and then we'll read the second one in Luke. Here we go. "And being warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, the wise men returned to their own country by another route." And then let's read Luke 2:20. "The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had seen and heard." Now that first Christmas was quite a journey for shepherds and wise men, wasn't it? The wise men had come from a long way away, probably Persia, so modern-day Iran, somewhere in that area, risking their lives carrying these gifts for the newborn king. Then they return home to their families. Same thing with the shepherds. After making that long journey, they come and the angel announced the birth, and they go straight to Bethlehem, and they see Jesus, and they tell everybody everything that they had heard about him, and then they return to their fields and their jobs and their normal routine and everyday lives. And that's what happens to us next, isn't it? We kind of get through this week of Christmas hangover and we shake that off and we clean up the house and you trade in your unwanted gifts and then you return to your regularly scheduled programming of life. And those of us who haven't done that yet, we will. You will. We'll take down the decorations. We'll put out the winter decorations. You'll put the Christmas tree back in the box. Or if you're like me, you'll take down the once living tree and drag it out in the street, leaving most of the needles on your carpet. And then you can move the furniture back to where it belongs and return your house to normal. Christmas comes and goes. Life returns to normal. The wise men went, they worshiped, they dropped off their gifts, they went home. The shepherds went back to work. They returned to their normal lives and routines, just like you will. Back to work, back to school, back to day-to-day responsibilities, back to routine, back to normal. And routine and normal is okay as long as you bring Christmas with you back to your everyday life. As long as you take Jesus with you back to your normal routine. So this morning, as you get going and return to your regular life, make sure that you recognize Jesus there every day. Every day. You need to see and experience Jesus not just on one day or one season of the year or one miraculous story, but every day of your life. Because if you aren't seeing Him there in your everyday living, you probably aren't seeing Him at all. Probably just seeing Him from a distance, from afar. And listen, if other people are going to see Jesus in your life or in my life, they're not going to see Him in the miraculous things that happen. They're not going to see Him in the one big amazing story. They're going to see Him in your day-to-day walk as you live and as you talk and as they hear how you think and as they understand how the story of Jesus and the living Jesus actually fits into the life you live each and every day of your regular life. So we have to learn to see Jesus, recognize Him in the day-to-day living. He was only in the manger that first Christmas. He's with you every day now. Look for Him and see Him. Here's the second thing. Return and celebrate Jesus every day. The shepherds returned glorifying and praising God for all they had seen and heard. They celebrated Jesus when they found Him, and you did and we did. And it was good news then. It's still good news every hour of every day of our normal lives. Now, sometimes sometimes cynically we talk about folks who attend church only on Christmas and Easter and, kind of come for those two celebrations. And there's something good about that because you come for those two celebrations, you kind of get a summary of the whole story and you can watch the rest of it on Netflix, I guess, but you kind of get a summary of the whole Christian story. We had some folks when we were in Indiana who would only come to Easter sunrise service. We used to have just sunrise service, 6 a.m., and there was a group of people from one particular family who would come only that service. They wouldn't even come for the regular Easter service. They would just come that one service, and then they'd go back home. But you want to celebrate Jesus, not just the big days, but each and every day. Because Christianity doesn't mean anything to any of us if it's not part of our normal life, if the celebration of the Savior is not part of each and every day. Christmas began on one holy night, but it has always been about the day after, and the day after that, and the day after that, and every day after that. Return and celebrate Jesus every day. Return and serve Him every day. People do nice things during the holiday. People are nicer during the holidays. Everybody sees that. Last year, just after Christmas, I did a funeral service in Algonquin, and we were driving to a cemetery in Cary. And I wasn't sure where the cemetery was, and there was a line of about 20 cars. And so we went through some red lights, and that obviously made some people mad because by the time they got to the end of the line, I was kind of near the end of the line, they didn't really know it was a funeral procession. They just thought it was some jerk running a red light. And so I went through one particular red light, and a guy came to an abrupt stop, was going to come through the intersection, came to an abrupt stop, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he did not honk or yell or anything. And I thought, still in the Christmas spirit. Now, he did, however, tell me that I was number one. But he used a different finger. I guess it's the thought that counts, right? But we do that. We're a little nicer during the holidays. We give a little more. We volunteer more. We take food to people at Thanksgiving. We bake them cookies and give folks little gifts and stuff. We try to be more encouraging. But guess what? We all need that stuff all year round, not just at Christmas. What if normal was to recognize Jesus and celebrate Jesus and serve people in Jesus' name all year round like we do at Christmas? What if after realizing and after celebrating that Jesus had come to give us life eternal and abundant and to transform us into his image, what if, and this is crazy, but what if we actually begin to be transformed? We begin to think, live like him. Not just from Thanksgiving to the end of the Christmas hangover, but all year round. I think if that becomes a normal part of our routine, then a holy night becomes more than just another day. And the day after might start with a hangover, but it actually would end with a new way of life. And the new way of life continues day after day. And there's no time better than today to renew your commitment to who you are in Jesus Christ. Paul said this, Colossians 3:10. It's a great verse. He said, you've put on the new man who's being renewed in knowledge according to the image of his Creator. Put on the new man who's renewed in knowledge according to the image of his Creator. Christmas decorations and lights, if they haven't come down, they're going to come down. It's going to be a new year, but this is the time not to think about a new year, but to think about the new man or woman that God created you to be. And that Jesus died so you'd have the ability and the power to actually be and live as that person. And some of you need to renew your commitment to Jesus and his kingdom and his church and his work because he's called you to join him. I love what Howard Thurman says, one of my favorite Christmas quotes, a great civil rights leader and theologian. Howard Washington Thurman said this, when the song of the angels is silent, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are again tending their sheep, when the manger is darkened and still, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among people, to befriend the lonely, to release the prisoner, to make music in your heart. The work of Christmas begins now. It starts with renewal. Starts with renewal. Hey, we did something different in our Christmas Eve service. We did several things different. One of them, and tell me if you liked it or not, is we used glow sticks instead of candles. Did you like that? Did you? Yeah. I can't crack that one. There we go. Hey, one of the things, that's pretty cool. One of the things that I liked about it, in addition to no wax on my hand, or on the chairs, and all the kids could have one without, mom or grandma worrying that they were going to set their hair on fire. That's a pretty good thing. Not that that would ever apply to me, but it's a pretty good thing. We were actually once at Rebecca's mom and dad's church, a big Southern Baptist, very contemporary church in Bowling Green. And the one year we were there, Sam was about 2 years old. The one year they decided on Christmas Eve, they have candle lights. Instead of using their projectors and all that kind of stuff, they decided to use hymnals. So here we are holding a child and a hymnal and a lit candle at the same time. That's a bad combination. But insurance paid for them to rebuild that church. That was really, really nice of them. So it's good. So we had the glow sticks, and I love this. And what I love, one of the things I love was the symbolism behind it. And I shared this on Christmas Eve. Normally on Christmas Eve we tell you, okay, now it's time. We're singing Silent Night. We're finished singing that. Extinguish your candle. And I told everybody, hey, these you don't extinguish. You take the light with you. And I love that symbolism. You take the light out into the darkness with you, and you take Jesus with you, and the party doesn't end here. And Jesus said, not only he's the light of the world, but you're the light of the world, and so let that light shine. So that's pretty cool. So I like that part of it. But then there's a symbolism I love about the candles as well, because I joked about the glow sticks that you take the light with you, and it'll probably wind up between the seats in your car, and you'll find it the next night. It'll still be glowing, and somebody will say, hey, something's glowing underneath your seat there. Is that yesterday's Taco Bell? What's going on with that? But in truth, they only go about 8 or 10 hours. And then they go out. And then they're done, and they don't glow anymore. And what do you do with them? You know what you do with them. You throw them away. I don't even know if you can recycle them. Maybe you can. I don't know. Just don't drink the liquid Tide Pod, kids, okay? Just don't do that. But I don't know what else you do with them. Oh, but the trusty candle. Here's the great thing about the trusty candle. Yeah. Anytime you want, you can relight this bad boy. Now, it'll go out. There's no question. It'll go out. You could accidentally blow it out, and I've kind of got a cold, so I might sneeze in a second and sneeze it out. Somebody else could blow it out. There could be a big wind, and that would wipe it out. But you know what? Every single time, you can relight it. You can relight it. You can put it out, and you can hold it up so that everyone can see the light. Show the way, the light of Jesus to you and everybody else, day after day. See, the Christmas hangover may be inevitable, and that's all right. It has some value. You take time to reflect on the meaning and significance of Christmas before you go back to normal. As Bruce Coburn said, the trouble with normal is it always gets worse. So you take the meaning of Christmas and the Christ of Christmas with you, so when you return to normal, it's a new normal. Not the old normal that gets worse, but a new normal. As Paul writes, 2 Corinthians 5:17. Because you're a new creation, the new has come, and the old is gone. And so this is where the Christmas hangover ends. The clock strikes midnight, and we say goodbye to the Christmas hangover 2018. And we crawl out or fall out of bed because this is the day after, the day to renew your commitment to Jesus Christ. The day to reflect and relight the fire for a new year of following and serving Jesus, where His light will shine in and through you, and your light will shine into a darkened world in a way that world can't miss it. Our entire Advent Christmas series this year was called ADVENTUALLY. And you'll remember ADVENTUALLY was a play on the word Advent, which means His coming, and eventually, which means eventually it'll get here, waiting for it. And it was about waiting for Christmas, waiting for Jesus to be born, waiting to receive Him, waiting to celebrate Him, waiting to surrender your life to Him, waiting to follow Him. So much waiting. And in so many ways, waiting always characterizes our lives. But not today. Today, the wait is over. Adventually is now. And now is the time to renew your commitment, to love, to follow, to serve Jesus Christ for the rest of this year, which means like 2 days, and for all of next year, which is on the way.